Peace. What's good, YouTube? It's Kareem Samdi back again with another video. Alright, so today we're going to get into the solar plexus chakra, also known as the Manipura chakra, and it's the third chakra out of the 7. So it is symbolized by fire and the color yellow. It is the gas chakra, the same way that the root was the earth and the solid chakra, and the sacra was the water and liquid chakra. This is the gas chakra. It is our control center and our divine spark within our being, and it symbolizes the ego identity, the thought forms, and our confidence and our control and personal power in this world. It is a very important chakra, and it's very important because this is where all the manifestation actually really happens within. This is where most of the power that we use to energize ourselves throughout the day happens, and it deals with astral travel as well. It deals with the invisible self, the spirit body, when it's balanced, and it also deals with your thought processes, your lower and your everyday thoughts, because it's also associated with the ego. This is where the ego. This is the last part of the ego before we get into the higher chakras, and self-esteem is also located here, and in whichever way your self-esteem is actually leaning towards, it all deals with the solar plexus chakra. This is essentially the end of the ego identity and identification. So the name solar plexus chakra implies the sun, and the sun, it's actually the planet associated with this chakra. And the name solar plexus also correlates with the seat of the soul. So this is essentially, where most of the power coming from your soul, coming from your higher self, is going to manifest. And you can use that once you balance this chakra. You can use that to manifest and create anything. You can use that to do anything, as long as you have control over that power. Now, just the same way that fire can purify things, the fire can create things, fire can also destroy things. So you don't want to burn out. You don't want to lose control over this fire. You want to actually be able to use it for creation, for purification, and for inspiration. This chakra also gives way to aggression because of how powerful the fire is. So when the color yellow is used against you, it'll actually give way to your aggressive urges if you're not cognizant of how the solar plexus functions. So when the solar plexus is balanced, you're going to feel outgoing. You're going to feel respectful, skillful, cheerful, open, expressive, efficient. You're going to feel like you're always gaining knowledge. You're always being educated. You're going to feel self-aware. You're going to be creative. You're going to feel intelligent, decisive, logical, in tune with yourself, sociable, sensible, and you're going to feel like you're in flow and perfect unison with the universe. This is what happens once you're able to use that fire within you to your advantage. You'll be able to create with a lot more power than you actually think, and with that power comes protection as well, because once you know and understand the way that your power works, your power becomes an armor for you. All of your chakras are meant to be armor for you, not just going out into this matrix, and with whatever comes with it, but also with going into these different worlds that you have forgotten about. So you really want to balance this chakra along with the other lower 3 chakras first, mainly because if you don't balance this chakra, what's going to happen is the way that the ego was manipulated against you, whatever problems that you have in the lower 3 chakras, they'll affect the higher chakras, and it'll actually bog down your spirituality. So when the solar plexus is imbalanced, you're going to feel practically the exact opposite of what I just said. So you're going to feel powerless. You're going to feel fatigued, weak-willed. You're going to feel like a victim, and you're going to always project. You're going to blame a lot of people. If you looked at my videos in the past on this channel, I always talked about blame and how it limits your spiritual power, because when you blame people, when you blame things, it will hold you back, because you're blocking your solar plexus just by doing so. And sometimes we do this out of ignorance, but when we know about our power, we know about our personal power, we actually begin to give it away. And blame is another way that we give our power away. So you want to be conscious of the way that your power functions with this chakra, because your words, because I said this chakra deals in manifestation. So words, which we also know as spells and spelling, words create your reality. They can create your reality. So because this chakra is all about actions, all about fire, your words are going to play a key role in your actions. So you want to, not basically when you're in balance in the solar plexus chakra, you're not really talking about yourself in the proper ways. You're either blaming others or you're blaming yourself. Blame is actually the largest part of why this chakra can really be blocked, and it's used very heavily against you. There's a lot of social engineering to create human victims. They want to get that victim mindset, attached to your human thought. And human thought, like I said before in another video, human thought is going to be what stops you from using the chakra system as something to elevate your consciousness and use it as light to propel you forward. Human thought is going to be that one thing that's going to get in the way, because the ego is resistant to the change. And it's not just the ego, but it's also active forces that seek to keep you stuck here, seek to keep you stuck in the matrix, keep you asleep, keep you away from your spiritual power. Because if you were really in tune with that spiritual power within yourself, then nothing would be able to get in your way. And so another way that this is in balance is that you're not able to manifest, like I just said, but you're always talking about manifesting. And another thing is that you'll feel insecure, dependent on others, and you'll be dependent on things outside of you to make you feel whole, make you feel powerful. It's like that person who he feels like he needs to use other things outside of himself to really get benefits, to feel alive, to feel like he's in control, rather than getting it from within. That's the sign of a weak solar plexus chakra. Materials, really, any materials that you're dependent on contributes to a weak solar plexus chakra. So what can cause an imbalance in the solar plexus chakra, an imbalance in your spiritual power center, right? And like I said before, blame is a huge thing. And when we're not honest with ourselves, because society doesn't necessarily reward you being honest with yourself. Society rewards you for being a victim. Society rewards you for following the agendas that the matrix has laid out for you, following the agendas that the cabal has laid out for you, for whatever might actually get in the way, or whatever doesn't benefit you or doesn't benefit your spirituality. It'll actually seek ways to keep you down. And the solar plexus is targeted, I'd say, a little bit heavier than the other chakras, but it's really the lower three chakras that are being manipulated as a whole. But that's not to say that other ones aren't being manipulated. But blame is a huge thing, because I want to say, like, when we blame other people for us not being able to be accountable for ourselves, when we blame our environment, we blame our upbringing for not being in the positions that we want to be in, not being not achieving our dreams, not having everything that we were told that we were going to have. When we grow up and we figure out the world isn't what we thought it was, isn't what our parents thought it was, it can really damage that child within. And also alongside that, the pain that we go through, all these things, it'll lower your sense of confidence in yourself. It'll lower your sense of self-esteem in yourself. Another thing is just like when knowledge of self is taken from you, right? You lose power, because knowledge is power. So a prime example I want to use is, because the Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad, all the Nation of Islam has ever talked about is how the black man in America and also the black woman lost knowledge of self throughout the past 500 years, in this descension cycle. And it wasn't just them, but it was also a lot of other people around the world, right? Because we're all one at the end of the day. But I want to use them as an example because in Elijah Muhammad's book, Message to the Black Man, he always talked about how when you lose knowledge of self, you have zero power. And so what we call the forces that be, right? When they take away knowledge of self, not just from one group, but when they take it away from anyone in general, that's when you actually hold a degree of control over that individual. You give that person a history, you give that group a history after you've conquered them, and you tell them what they are, and they have no other way to figure that out, no other way to fight back possibly, that can cause an imbalance in the solar plexus if it actually happened, and there's so many different ways this is used against you today, because we live in an age where there's so many different types of lies, not just through the media, but through everything that we consume, and that'll all contribute to imbalancing your solar plexus chakra. They want you to blame them. Whoever controls the matrix wants you to blame them for you not having a spiritual power. It wants you to blame them because the more you continue to blame them, the more power you lose. So everybody is focused on talking about the Illuminati, reptilians, or all these different types of things, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, you're still responsible for generating power within, so you can propel your consciousness forward. It doesn't matter what happened in the past. It doesn't matter what might happen in the future. When you're focused on the past, right? The past is supposed to be a guideline for your consciousness right now. And the future hasn't happened yet, but the future is in your hands to create right now. So when you take control of that fire and you take the lessons of the past and you learn to craft a new you out of them, to craft a new way forward, craft a vision, and you do it through action, that's when you begin to actually activate the solar plexus and activate the higher chakras. See, not only does this chakra deal with blame and confidence, two opposite ends of the spectrum, but it also deals with courage. Courage is the way forward, because once you get out of the lower emotional spectrum, you move into courage. Courage is how you really is the first step towards enlightenment. And before that is anger. And anger also lies within the solar plexus because, like I said in another video, anger is a fire, and so there's gonna be so many different agendas pushed against you simply to keep your consciousness down. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what group you belong to. We're all one at the end of the day. We all came from the same body and the same being at the end of the day. That is darkness. So there's a lot of different agendas pushed on you to keep your consciousness trapped down here in the matrix, and that is the nature of Earth. But Earth is also a school, and Earth is also a way for you to become your highest element. So when you're moving out of the solar plexus chakra, you want to tap into that fire so you can become that highest element, so you can believe in yourself. This is all about believing in yourself. This is all about really knowing who you are at the end of the day. Knowledge is power. So an overactive solar plexus chakra, it deals with gluttony. Because like I said before, the 7 deadly sins are all overactive chakras. So the overactive solar plexus will be represented by gluttony. It'll show up in you'll be demanding of others. You'll be a workaholic, judgmental, critical of others. You'll be a bully. You'll have a might is right mindset, a my way or the highway mindset. You'll be stubborn. You'll be a perfectionist. You won't be able to relax because you're always your power, your fire is it's burning so like brightly. It's burning too much. You're actually going to burn out. So you won't be able to relax because you'll be paranoid. Also, you won't be able to control yourself. You'll feel rigid. Like I said before, you'll always be planning things, but you won't be able to manifest anything because your ideas, they're not really seeing light. They're not balanced. They're not counteracted with a higher spiritual sight of things. You'll feel contradictory towards yourself and towards others. You'll be egotistical, prideful, overly concerned with place in life, and your relationships with others will suffer as well. But you'll also be craving the company of others because you'll become dependent on them and other things outside of you, and you won't be able to live alone. You won't be able to find your own answers alone. Independence won't lie here, because you'll just want more and more. An overactive solar plexus, it's actually playing against your ego's need to consume things. And when you have to continue to consume, you'll lose your power eventually, because you'll begin, not only will you begin to feed off of everything outside of you, but then you'll begin to feed on yourself. So, and actually that brings me to another book I want to talk about. You want to get this book called Psychic Vampires, because not only does it talk about giving your power away to others, and it deals primarily, most of the meditations in the book deal primarily with the solar plexus chakra, and it tells you exactly how you give away your power to others in multiple different ways without realizing it or not, and how others can take away your power as well. So you want to be cognizant of where your energy is going, and you want to balance these chakras so you can really have a firm armor going forward on your purpose, on your spiritual journey, wherever you may go, right? But when we raise all this spiritual energy and it gets stuck in the solar plexus chakra, we don't move into the higher chakras. That's when things will happen where you won't be able to manifest, because you won't have a spiritual tether. You won't have a connection to that part of you that can create on a higher level. Everything you do will be very rigid. It'll be very logical, but it won't really have any spiritual backing to it when your solar plexus is overactive, or when you're not really tapping in with the higher chakras. So how to balance an overactive solar plexus? You want to use the color violet. You want to use purple, and then you want to follow with yellow things as well for a short period, because you want to still keep that fire burning. But violet would be the opposite. So we're talking about the crown chakra here, because the crown and the solar plexus are connected. And the crown, when it's overactive, it also represents pride. So when I said you would be prideful with an overactive solar plexus chakra, that shows the connection. When one thing's underbalanced or underactive or overactive, something else is compensating for it, or something else is also being affected too. So all chakras, they work in tandem with each other. So you can't just focus on one. You have to focus on all of them. You only want to focus on one when you're really learning to understand the frequency of the chakras. So you want to visualize violet, you want to visualize purple, and then add in some yellow. Anything purple, any crystals that are purple, any clothes that are purple, you want to use it. You also just want to come to an understanding of what's really going on in your life. You want to really journal about yourself, journal about what's going on with you, because if you're not really being conscious of what's going on, and really how happy you are with your life, then you're not really going to notice these things no matter how much you meditate, So, but meditation is really about observing yourself without judgment. So that's what you want to do. And you want to educate yourself as well. Education is actually healing. It's healing for the mind. It's healing for the spirit body. So you want to educate yourself on the solar plexus chakra. And whenever you use crystals to balance out the solar plexus chakra, you're going to place it on the solar plexus. So any purple crystals like amethyst, place it on the solar plexus when it's overactive, and that'll balance it over time. So an underactive solar plexus chakra, it's very, very heavily represented by anxiety, and also powerlessness, blame, but anxiety as well, because anxiety is a large thing in the dark age that we live in, and it seems like it's almost something that's considered healthy and normal now, healthy and normal for people to have, but you're really not supposed to be feeling this way. You're able to control your emotions from within, and we don't want to reinforce, and we don't want to venerate things that hold us back. We don't want to give names to these things, because they're nothing more than just feelings. We want to understand them, feel them out, and let them go. But if we don't do that, then our solar plexus will begin to be underactive, or whatever other chakras are manipulated in terms of, being used against us, right? So you'll feel depressed. You'll feel lack of self-esteem, lack of confidence, confusion, poor judgment, poor self-image. You're going to want to isolate yourself. You'll be afraid to learn anything new. Overwhelmed by emotions, superficial emotions, negative emotions. You'll feel closed to your spiritual energy, your spiritual power. You'll have a fear of change and a fear of new things, hurt feelings and poor digestion. So people who aren't really tapping in with, a higher spiritual reality, anyone that that's closed off to something greater than the reality that's presented to them, the reality that we're told, something that's greater than this matrix. People who are opposed to that, their consciousness is either lying in the solar plexus or lying in the lower chakras. They're not tapping in, and this is why, because they're not allowing themselves to tap in. They're bogged down spiritually because they've closed themselves off to that fire. And I wanna also add in, your chakras aren't necessarily always blocked. Even if you're ignorant of the way that they work, they're not necessarily always blocked. But the way that they spin, the way that that these light wheels spin, they might spin either erratically or they'll be slowing down, a lot. So we really want to be conscious of what's going on with ourselves. And really, if you just look at your emotions, if you just observe your emotions and you observe these feelings, you don't even have to meditate, but if you really just take time to understand yourself, then you'll heal these chakras without even having to do anything spiritual, because your body, your spiritual body and your physical body, they're constantly cleansing themselves. So if you just give yourself a mental and an emotional enema by observing things and being able to let them go, then you'll be able to move forward in life. Letting Go by David R. Hawkins. Very good book for chakra work. Hands down. It's one of the best books I've read on my spiritual journey, because letting go is essentially all the spiritual journey is really about. It's not about, trying to perfect this matrix that we live in. The matrix was never meant to be perfected. You're just here to learn lessons and you're here to grow and transform. But the matrix is something that you had to go through, a school that you had to go through to understand different parts of yourself. But we're not going to sit here and try to perfect, something that was never meant to be perfected, something that was created flawed. We need to perfect what's within. And actually what's within doesn't even need to be perfected. It just needs to be remembered. And once it's remembered, it'll let the ego go. So how do you want to energize your underactive solar plexus chakra? You just use yellow. Use the color yellow. You want to keep yellow crystals close to you for a long period of time. And like I said before, just observe the emotions, observe the feelings, observe the thoughts. Don't identify with them, but observe them and then let them go slowly. And you will see an increase in spiritual power. And I can speak for this myself. My solar plexus was one of the first chakras that I actually worked on, because I got a reading from Khadija Samdi, and she told me that to focus on one chakra for a month. And when I focused on my solar plexus chakra, for a month, it actually a lot of things became clear to me. And I still work on my solar plexus to this day, because the chakra work is never done. You want to always be constantly growing and really understanding what's going on for you, because anything can go into the chakras, but how long it stays there and how long it takes to become a part of your identity, if you're not regularly letting things go, it will imbalance your chakras. But yeah, she told me to work on this chakra first, and when I worked on this chakra first, I really started to realize just how much I was in my own way, with a lot of things. And I had to learn, because I had a lot of confidence issues that would come up. I had anxiety spikes, and sometimes like my energy would break through and wouldn't be held back, but other times I would fall back into the same mindset. My solar plexus would teeter between being overactive and being underactive, because sometimes the chakras do that. It really just depends on what's going on for you, because we're all different. We all have different experiences and what's going on with us. But the solar plexus, when I was working on it, I really started to realize just, who am I really, who's really in control here? Is it me or is it things outside of me, And I really had to start first, with looking at, well, what's going on around me? And am I attaching to that? Am I giving away power to that? And sometimes it's really hard to be honest with ourselves because we want to gloss over things, and the ego doesn't want you to break down and realize that you're doing it to yourself almost all the time. And once I finished that month, I really started to realize that I was in control. I was in control. I was responsible for all the bad things, just the same way that I'm responsible for all the good things. When good things happen to us, we always want to take credit, but when we realize that things aren't going our way, we don't want to be responsible for that. But when you do become responsible for that, you become more powerful for it. And that's what I learned working on the solar plexus chakra. And so illnesses associated with the solar plexus, diabetes, ulcers, anything dealing with the kidneys, hypoglycemia, gas, food allergies, liver problems, nervous disorders, breathing problems, and depression. Deities that you want to work with to balance the solar plexus: Ganesha, Agni, Surya, Rudra, Dakini, Ra, Palo, Helios, Athene, and Melanos. Crystals: tiger's eye, yellow calcite, topaz, quartz, and citrine. Herbs and oils you want to use: mugwort, that's a favorite one because it helps me astral project. Cypress, lemon, juniper, lemongrass, and cassia. And activities that you want to use to balance the solar plexus chakra: you want to meditate. Meditation is key with this chakra. It's key with all chakras. I don't care who you are. Until you get to a point where you can be mindful all parts of the day, you want to be meditating. That's key. But I want to say physical activity too. You want to get out of your ego's way by making sure you're physically fit, because when you're physically fit, you'll feel powerful. I work out at least 6 days a week. And I make sure I get enough sleep. When you do those things, you show that you care about your body. You're meeting the ego's needs, because the ego wants to feel strong too. It wants to feel like it's in somewhat control. You want to, like Brother Panic always says, give the baby its bottle. You want to do that for the ego. So when your ego does feel a little bit powerful, at least physically, it's not going to get in your way as much. So work out in whatever way you can. You don't have to be a bodybuilder, but you have to at least want to feel like you have some kind of physical capacity. Because if you don't, then you're going to feel weak. Feeling physically strong will translate to feeling spiritually strong too. That's a fact. I can vouch for that, because when I was out of shape, I still felt weak spiritually too. So, and it's different from person to person, because not everybody with high amounts of spiritual power is necessarily in shape. But I will say that it'll help you more than it hurts you. Especially for all the manipulation being used against your solar plexus today. You want to have some kind of physical activity. The physical domain of life, it's still key. Even if we're looking to escape the matrix, even if we're looking to move on to greater things, we're here right now in the physical. So you still want to pay it some kind of attention that way. And affirmations also help with the solar plexus chakra, but your affirmations aren't going to work without action. So you can't just sit here saying, I am a god, unless you start taking steps to make you feel like one. You can't start saying that I am in control unless you start taking steps to feel like you're in control. We have to do things that make us feel in alignment with our affirmations. So if you say that you're a great singer, then you must be doing things every single day that make you feel like you're a better singer. You want to be singing every single day, learning how to perfect that craft every single day. The solar plexus is all about action. The same way that fire needs oxygen to burn, your solar plexus, it needs action to manifest. So the next thing I want to get into, another activity is education. You want to be reading. I know there's a lot of consensus that you don't have to read books once you become spiritual. That is bullshit. That is very, very fucking bullshit, honestly. Read as many books as you can when it comes to spirituality and the occult, and that's, to me, that just seems like it's controlled opposition, honestly. You don't ever want to limit your knowledge. The day you're not learning something is the day that you begin to die. Like when you're not learning, you're dying slowly. You want to learn something new every day. You want to be reading something new every day, expanding your mind every day. You're only going to be as powerful as what you know, because when the body disappears, all you're going to have is the mind. So if your mind doesn't have anything to go off of, it doesn't have any spiritual ground, it's not taking that information that you learned, and transforming it and getting it from higher realities and getting a higher spiritual understanding of these things, right? Then you're not going to be going anywhere. You're not going to be transforming. This is a path of transformation. So we have to really recognize that our spiritual power lies in our knowledge of self, knowledge of spirit, and knowledge of our spiritual purpose and spiritual realities and what's going on, in the matrix, what's going on in the higher realities, and what's going on in the soul, who we are, and our world is a reflection of the inside. So if our world is a world steeped in ignorance, then what does that say about the inside? We have to really take accountability, because accountability is going to help you transform on the spiritual path. It helped me transform on the spiritual path. So I know damn well it's going to help other people transform on the spiritual path. So educate yourself. Read as many spiritual books as you want, or as you can, really, not as you want. Read as many spiritual books as you can, because that's what's going to get you out of here. It's not necessarily the information in there is going to be a biblical one, one consensus truth. No, a lot of this stuff is going to contradict. It's what that spiritual power that you pull down from your soul, that's going to transform and give you the real information. But you want to ground yourself with the books, and get a firm understanding of concepts. That's why I say read at least 5 books on chakras, so you can get a firm grip, and understanding of how the light centers within your body work. And actually, I'm going to make another video focusing on the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus again, and explaining things in a different way that I know people will be able to understand and be inspired about. So that's what I have to say about the solar plexus chakra. I hope it inspires you guys, and I hope it motivates you guys to really get out there and really take care of yourselves, take care of the solar plexus chakra within. I wish you all luck in your journey, and peace.